Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Yes, I am happy and thank God healthy. And the smile isn't only because I get to see Susan again today. Hey, Susan. But it's because it's another beautiful, blessed day. We get a chance to focus on education as we talk about the upcoming U.S. Board and Schools Fair. Chance to introduce someone to you. So please stay tuned for Talk Today when we come back. Running in the Republic. Well, that's going to happen. Neil Murray is going to join us at 1 o'clock. 1:30. Well, patient safety awareness with HSA. That's on the schedule as well. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email Talk Today at candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255.
Courtesy of Flow.
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thanks so much for joining us. Without question, perhaps one of my greatest passions is education and a chance to continually be a student. As they say, be a lifelong learner. There's nothing wrong with that. Honored now to be able to meet and introduce to you from Maple School, Mr. Jeff Magnoli. It's our first meeting. Hopefully it won't be our last, whether public airways or private conversation going forward. When our paths cross good people, it can only make us better. So good afternoon to you, Mr. Jeff.
Dwayne, thank you very much. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it greatly.
It's a pleasure. And the thing is that, as I've just briefly shared with you, but I think everybody here know by now, without question, a society must always champion and advance its education for its people. Not only empowers, but I think we would recognize it is the great equalizer in so many ways. And it gives people a chance to, with that increased knowledge, make an increased contribution. Not just the material and financial that they may get, but what they may be able to give to your society and to the global community in general. So with that, as our people avail themselves of opportunity to attend the Board and Schools Fair, perhaps they'll see that it's a sacrifice, but it's one that is worth making.
Well, I would agree with that wholeheartedly. Boarding schools, whether they be traditional boarding schools or special needs schools, language difference schools, they're there for a reason. Mm-hmm. It's because there's a need for very specialized programs to help students who have difficulty in certain areas, whether it be straight up learning or executive functioning or life skills, whatever it happens to be. We're there for a reason, and we allow the parents to be parents while we take on some of the heavy lifting that requires specialized programs or tasks to help them become successful.
As we want not only to share and to learn more about the upcoming Board and Schools Fair, but in particular, Maplebrook in this instance, recognizing that educators and even policymakers globally are starting to appreciate that terms like differentiated learning, multiple intelligences, and like that. We all, as parents and probably even as students, recognize that not everybody learns the same. It's not always the same way. Where you sit in the class, your ability to not only see the board but hear the teacher, maybe the way the light comes in through the window. Different things can affect the outcomes, the learning outcomes in the classroom setting. And even the classroom setting itself. Is it under a mango tree, which wouldn't be too bad? Or is it in a nice air-conditioned, comfortable space with the best seating? Or are you standing? So with that in mind, tell us a little bit about Maplebrook and its approach to education.
Well, to your point, Dwayne, all brains are created differently, not equally. And the wiring of each of our brains does different things, strengths, weaknesses, and for some students, it's just a challenge. The whole process of taking in information, storing it, and being able to give it back in a concrete way is difficult. It's not their fault. It's nobody's fault. It's just the way it is. So over the years, as education has progressed, we've learned that each student learns differently, and sometimes, especially with those that have learning challenges, you have to meet them where they learn best in order for them to be successful. And too often we group students that learn differently together, not realizing that they have to be treated as individual learners. And that's why schools like Maplebrook exist, because we work with a very specific group of students that struggle with learning. And the programs we have are set specifically to help them, to identify how they learn best, and then to meet those needs in a way that makes sense to them, to allow them to feel success. And once they feel success in learning, they are more willing to learn more, because it's now not a chore or a frustration for them, but a joy, which is what we want education to be ultimately.
It is, and I guess with that, the student becomes more confident, becomes more comfortable as they become more familiar with the information, and able to say, well, hey, now I know this thing, I can do it. Seems like a simple formula, but one that to date we're probably not getting as correctly as we could and should.
Well, it's because it requires a great deal of work and study to be able to identify how each child learns best and what they need to be successful. And you have to take the time. In the United States, because of the way things are in terms of funding and things like that, public education doesn't have the time to disseminate all that information and come up with a true lesson plan for each individual student. That's why there are private schools, because we can focus on one particular segment of the student body, the student population, and focus on that. Maplebrook is such a school.
So tell us then a little bit more about Maplebrook, where it is, give us the setting.
Absolutely. Maplebrook is a school in Amenia, New York, which is about 2 hours north of New York City. It's out in what used to be dairy country, so it's a very pastoral setting, very pretty. And we are set up as two very distinct programs. The first program is the Academy at Maplebrook, which is, in American terms, a middle and secondary school which works with children from 6th grade through 12th grade. And then our second program is what we call a post-secondary school for students who have graduated high school, so from the age of, say, 18 up to 21. And they're two programs separated on the campus by Route 22, and we focus on students with learning challenges and special needs. So it's a combination of both. An LD school, per se, tends to work with language-based challenges like dyslexia or dysgraphia with students with average to above average intelligence, so from 100 above. We work with students with not just language-based challenges, but also ADHD, mild autism, receptive expressive language challenges, a whole host of difficulties. And all of our students have a cognitive ability below average, so below 90. And so all of our students may have an IQ somewhere between 70 and, say, 89, 90 at the top end. That's a section of our student body that doesn't really get represented at any school, especially in the public sector, that have a lot of other challenges. So we can truly zero in on each student, how they learn best, where their weaknesses are, bolster the weaknesses, express it in a way that they can understand it so they can feel success for the first time for a lot of them. And we're one of, I would say, the only schools in the United States that actually works with this group of students.
Now, from that point, Jeff, when we're looking at learning and the like, Maplebrook specifically, talking about two schools, the academy, and then when we're looking at the size of the student population, roughly.
Very small. In order to do your best work individually, it has to be small. So we have about 50 students in each program. And I apologize for not advancing the post-secondary program. It's called the Institute for Collegiate and Career Studies. So a student who needs a little bit more time to prepare himself to go on to a collegiate career in their executive functioning, in their independent living skills, would be a perfect place for them. And for those that have no aspirations at college, because, as they say, college isn't for everybody, who want to work towards a career, we can focus in on that. And each program has about 50 students. So in total 100, but 50 on each campus so that we can truly work with each student independently.
Is it all boarding? I mean, my context would be, but is it day school as well or all boarding?
The academy takes day students. Mm-hmm. We currently only have 5 because in our very rural area, our specific students is not in abundance. So most of our students are boarding students. For the Institute, in order for it to be something where you're learning how to live independently, it has to be a boarding program specifically because the program is, in a sense, 24/7.
And as I listen to you, recognizing that even in that traditional sort of college university setting, there's that independence. The student is either on campus or living in a residential facility near campus, deciding, getting up in the morning, getting to classes, studying, but some guidance. So.
Absolutely. And as you know, I mean, most colleges expect their incoming freshmen to be able to do that on their own. For our students with their challenges, it takes a little bit more time to get those things under control in a way that would allow them to focus strictly on their academics.
All right. Well, we're having an opportunity to speak to Mr. Jeff Magnolia from Maplebrook School. And I think as we look at education, and especially with opportunities for boarding in particular, the opportunities in the country are without question, available and top notch. But if we can move and expose and introduce our children to other things, so much the better. If you want to have a quick comment, a question you want to pose, clarification you're seeking, well, give us a shout. 949-6990 or 949-8037. Likewise, you can WhatsApp 925-3261, or if you want, Susan is standing by on the toll-free line, and that works as well, 1-800-534-TALK. Pause quickly, take a short break, but when we come back, we'll continue the discussion and tell you more about the upcoming board and school fairs. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
Minimize age spots, dull skin, and acne, and erase fine lines and deep wrinkles with a combination of a microdermabrasion facial and laser skin tightening treatment, followed by a glow mask and face massage for only $250, a savings of $200. That's 4 treatments for the price of 1. Only at Beyond Basics this February. Call 916-SKIN to book your appointment today.
Whether you're planning your child's next birthday party or simply looking for a social night out, look no further than Kingpin Bowling at King Sports Center.
With a range of packages and specials for bowling parties, socials, and corporate team building, Kingpin Bowling offers what no one else can. The only bowling alley in Cayman. And it's indoor fun, which means no mosquitoes, AC, and don't forget about their bowling bar. Book your bowling lanes today. Call 946-BOWL. That's 946-2495. Email kingpinbowling@candw.ky. For more information, visit their website, www.kingsportscenter.com.
King Sports Center, providing your fitness, recreation, and relaxation needs.
Save time, don't stand in line. You can apply for or renew your trade and business license online 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Just visit dci.gov.ky and click on the trade and business online application link. Now, you don't need to stand in line, take time out of your busy schedule, or try to find parking. You can apply for your trade and business license online. Visit dci.gov.ky today and save time for running your business.
Hello, I am Noel March, a small business owner in Georgetown for over 20 years. Small businesses depend on government to develop a quality infrastructure and environment that encourages entrepreneurs to create and grow local businesses, resulting in the creation of jobs and prosperity for Caymanians. Small businesses help drive our economy. Just as we have supported building the new airport, we must support the building of the new cargo and cruise port. It will give our tourism industry the opportunity to grow and Caymanian entrepreneurs the chance to shine. Support the port. Support our tourism.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. Thanks for joining us and a chance to get a perspective on education. I think not only would that broaden our horizons, so open up other options for our students, but get a chance sometimes, if I may say, to benchmark. And I believe it's important that as a country we look at education continuously, with a view of raising the bar as much as we can. From Maplebrook School, Mr. Jeff Magnolia joins us, and there is a U.S. Boarding Schools Fair. Before we continue the conversation, when, where, the fair? Let me share with us, please.
We have a small, what we call LD school fair, being held at the National Gallery today at 5 o'clock. 5 schools from the United States will be there. All schools, in one way or another, work with students that have learning challenges to varying and lesser degrees. We have 2 traditional LD schools, as I will call them, which work with average to above average cognitive students. We have Maplebrook, which works with students in the low average arena. And then we have one school that actually works with a range of cognitive abilities, but tends to work more towards a residential type of program with students that struggle with anxiety and emotion and getting their ability to control those things under control so that they can learn.
Yeah. As I listen to you, we're recognizing increasingly that for whatever reason, people may point to research to say, oh, this is definitely a factor that influences, but students are perhaps affected by so much today, maybe more so than their parents and grandparents. But even if not, we are aware that things are affecting the child's learning and development. So in order to ensure that we improve the teaching outcomes, we're able to develop programs. You referenced earlier at Maplebrook what I thought would be the IEP, that an individual plan for each student in order to ensure that we give the student the very best opportunity to learn and attain the greatest potential. How is the student, the incoming student at Maplebrook, assessed? How is the student supported? Help us understand that.
Sure. Well, there are a number of ways that we use to help prepare an IEP, individual educational program, for each individual student. It starts during the admissions process. Because we have a very unique profile of student, we have to make sure that the students that are looking at us fit our profile so that we can program for them. So we require what is called neuropsychological or socioeducational testing prior to their admission so that we can see how they learn best, where their weaknesses are, where their cognitive abilities lie, so that, again, the student that arrives on our doorstep, we know that we can effectively program for them. So that's the start. Obviously, records from their previous schools are helpful up to a point. Most of them will come already with an IEP from whatever school they have attended prior to us, so we use that sort of as a starting point. But we don't develop our IEP until 2 months after the student has arrived and started classes to get a sense of where they are, how they're learning, how we can program for them. And what's unique to us as other schools is we do not place them in classes based on their chronology. So they may come into us as a 9th grade student, but maybe they're comprehending their reading comprehensions on a 6th grade level. Well, it makes no sense for them to be reading 9th grade textbooks if they don't understand them. Mm-hmm. So we will place them in a reading program that meets where they are now. It will foster success and self-esteem, which will allow them to learn quicker and with less anxiety. And as they progress, obviously, we move them along. As their reading comprehension rises, we'll move them into a more higher level, and so on and so forth. So the opportunity for them to get up to grade level is increased because they're starting out at a level that makes sense for them.
And as I listen to you, I recognize that many would hear or read or somehow have at least been introduced to this notion of social promotion. The child has spent 1 year in this grade and now is a year older, so therefore the child should go on to the next grade because that is the expectation. How many of us, with the greatest respect, probably in our own lives as adults, struggle with reading and comprehension? Some maybe functionally, literate as it is, and recognizing that at that age, probably a little too embarrassed to acknowledge that I can't read that good. I don't really understand it. If you can address that now, as a child,
I can address it on a personal level. There's no doubt in my mind when I was going back to middle school, which was back in the late 60s, early 70s, that I was ADD, which didn't exist really back then. Mm-hmm. My reading, although I comprehended well, I just could not focus on the words. I would read an entire paragraph and then have to go back and reread it because I didn't get it the first time because my attention wasn't on the reading. So reading for me was a chore, so I grew up not liking it until I got to be an adult and could actually take my time and read stuff that I liked at a pace that made sense for me. So just for my own personal, it made school less interesting for me.
I like the way you put that.
And so I focused on sports quite a bit because of that, you see a lot.
Yeah, and exactly. And we can probably, either smile loudly or just laugh silently to ourselves. But that's a challenge we may have experienced ourselves, or we see within, our children, or perhaps even as educators within our pupils. The fact that we can address that today, Jeff rightly recognized that way back when we never recognized some of these behaviors. We didn't acknowledge them. We didn't have a term for it. We knew something was wrong. We labeled the child and to society's detriment. Now, from the Maplebrook's sort of approach and perspective, the parent leaving Cayman, sending the child, what is that like?
Well, that's obviously the biggest challenge out of everything. I mean, put aside the fact that tuition can be high, and that can certainly be a challenge. The hardest part, obviously, for most families is parting with their children. Who wants to do that? Because there's a lot of sometimes guilt attached to that. I'm sending my child away because I cannot give him what he needs here, and that's a sense of guilt, which is misplaced guilt because that's not really what it's about. It ultimately is about the child and how he needs to learn. And if you're in an area that has a place that can meet his needs, that's great. Keep him home, keep him close. That's the best thing for them. But that being said, when you're talking about children in my profile of school, there's very few schools that can do that. And so the only option is to either privately tutor, which is a challenge in and of itself because you don't have that student body dynamic that a child needs to progress. You have to look outside. And that means, having them go to boarding school sometimes. And again, there's nothing easy about it, but it really comes down to not how I feel as a parent, but what is best for my child to progress as far as he or she can.
And as I listen to you, parents, I believe, willingly make all sorts of sacrifices continuously for that child's development and betterment. You see some parents, last slice of chocolate cake, little Johnny likes that, so you know what, I won't take it. Or sometimes you eat it so that you know what, Johnny doesn't need any more sugar. Let me take the calories and the fat. I mean, you have to take one for the team sometimes, right?
I sacrifice for my children that way all the time.
I'm with you. That's good parenting.
Absolutely.
You know, keep the sugar
I'm saving you from yourself.
These are the things that parents do all the time. This is just another step. It kind of reminds me of what, you know, primarily our fathers and grandfathers and uncles and some cases older brothers did when they went to sea. It wasn't just an adventure. It was the need to be able to provide financially, you know, for the families that were here. If we're going to, you know, perhaps we educated our children here and now we send them overseas for, you know, tertiary education. It's okay. The child is a little bit older, but same concept. You're sending the child away to better the child's, you know, progress and opportunities.
Well, just to bring it into, you know, sort of factual. Right now, again, the academy is a school of 50 students, and right now we have a family from the Bahamas, from Barbados, from Trinidad Tobago, from Jamaica, from the Dominican Republic, and that's within just a small 50-student school, because those families recognize that in their current location, it just wasn't possible for their child to get the education that's going to make them the best them that they can be. Mm-hmm. And so they made that ultimate sacrifice. And I can tell you, although especially during the winter, those students are pining to be home, they are going home on a 2-week break very shortly. So they will be home soon enough.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, even when we have, at least in my mind, a cold snap here, yeah, maybe, you know, 75, 76. That's cool, but not like what, you know. But it's good because it not only helps the child, it helps the family to be more appreciative of the opportunities of, what I call, without question and without apology, the blessings that abound. Now, for that family out there that's thinking, you know what, I need to look for little Johnny or little Susie's future. The boarding school fair is this evening, 5 o'clock, is it?
5 o'clock, yes, at the National Gallery.
All right, so come down, get information from the 5 schools that are there, see if this is something that is for the families, you know, needs at this time. Well, 5 chance to chat is quick and easy.
And we're very open as well. If you have a student whose needs can't be met by the schools that are there, we'd be more than happy to share with you the possibilities of other schools, because Lord knows there's plenty of them in the United States, because it's all about finding the appropriate fit for the student. I may be the director of admissions at Maplebrook, but I'm more about educating the child properly. And if Maplebrook isn't the right place, then I will steer somebody where I believe they should look. So it's always worth your time to get as much information as you can when you're making decisions like this.
Yeah. And this is the beautiful thing about educators in particular, not only the way they network, but that calling, that commitment they have to the students, you know, overall development and making a society safer, stronger, stable, I think is, you know, the route to education. We'll pause quickly, take a short break. When we come back, we'll continue with our discussion. For those who are listening, without question, education is fundamental, not just to the individual, but to the community, not just to the family, but to this wider society. And if we're able to give our children a chance to improve and better their lives, give them the greater confidence and self-esteem, perhaps even greater earning potential, why not take it? 949-8037, 949-6990 if you have a question. When we come back, continue discussion with Mr. Jeff McNally. So please stay tuned for Talk Today.
During a 12-day excursion organized by the Chamber of Commerce, cruise the Nile River, ride camelback through the Valley of the Kings, visit the tomb of King Tut, the Great Sphinx, and the pyramids of Giza. The trip takes place from the 17th to the 28th of October. To learn about this trip of a lifetime, visit caymanchamber.ky/Discover Egypt and register to attend an information session on Monday, 11th March at 6 p.m. in the Chamber's conference room in Governor's Square. You can also call Carrie at 743-9126. Don't miss your chance to experience one of the wonders of the world.
Don't sleep on these savings at Tomlinson Furniture with King Silly mattresses for $475 and futons for $499 till supplies last. New arrivals every week. Tomlinson Furniture, corner of Hospital and Smith Road.
Get your car washed with Diamond Auto Care. $20 car wash special. $30 for SUVs, interior and exterior. Call 928-7336. Diamond Auto Care will leave your car with a sparkle and shine. Only $20. Call 928-7336.
Are you looking to eliminate wrinkles and fine lines? Beyond Basics is offering Botox units at $9.95 each, a savings of $6 per unit. Get kissable lips, plump up cheeks, and reduce smile lines by saving $275 on dermal fillers. This February, love your skin with these specials and more at Beyond Basics. Call 916-SKIN to book your appointment today.
Miami is so much more than just a shopping destination. Foodies, friends, and family are flocking to Miami for a variety of vacation experiences. From theater shows and concerts, theme parks and sports, to museums, fine dining, festivals, culture, spa, and more. And with regular Miami airfares now from just $182 CI round trip, including taxes, now is the time to plan your unique Miami getaway. For details and to book, call 949-2311 or visit CaymanAirways.com.
Say hello to Flow.
Radio Cayman's Information Hour, Monday through Saturday, 6 to 7 p.m.
Brought to you by Flow. Cayman's powerful network that connects you to your world like never before.
Flow.
Say hello to your world, Cayman.
Say hello to Flow, Cayman's #1 network.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. Thank you for joining us, and thanks too for the opportunity to share about education. And from Maplebrook School, Mr. Jeff Magnolia joins us, and I think, as this is my perspective, right? As a society, if we're able to have an informed, genuine, meaningful discourse on education, not just the academics, not just the subjects that a child takes or the exams that is passed and the grades that we receive, but how do we teach and learn so that, as you shared, it becomes enjoyable for the teacher, for the pupil, and for the parent, so that this thing, the child gets up every day to go and, wow, I can't wait to get back the next day because we're doing something. We're going to continue watching a film on some historical account, or we're going to read something, or we're working on some project. I mean, those are things that I believe actually can and should be happening in our learning environments. Are they?
Well, I think that's, yeah, that's a really broad question. I think when we stop doing that, when we stop creating a space where students can learn freely, it's because of our own inner challenges. Either as teachers or administrators, we put certain things above the child's learning, all of a sudden become more important. Mm-hmm. And we start to then distance ourselves from why we're truly educators in the first place. And once we start getting involved in all those ancillary things beyond sharing the information with students in a way that they can take it in, disseminate it, store it, give it back when necessary, and enjoy that whole process, then we've lost direction, and we've become much too worried about how we fit into that space rather than what we're giving to that space. And it's you see it all the time, unfortunately, whether it's in a secular environment or a non-secular environment. It's easy to lose sight of the point of education.
Yeah. And I as an educator, I very grateful that you shared that with us, because as people in our society, as we listen, I hope that we start to appreciate. And I believe increasingly we are. That we're no longer teaching to a test. We're no longer looking at just, get through the curriculum. We need to get through this thing, because as parents, we want to see that the child is getting a grade. As, funders of education, as policymakers, that this school has a great rating. It's been assessed as whatever this thing is. Those are important. But I think the safety and security of the students within the school, the learning that takes place, not just that, the 3 R's, as it were, but that you're becoming functioning, respectable, respectful, members of a community. Important.
Standardized testing, in my opinion, was created to hold schools accountable. I mean, they say it's a way of getting an understanding of what the child is learning, and that's why they do it, want to make sure that they're learning what they're supposed to be learning. But really, it was just a way to, again, hold schools and teachers and everybody accountable. Are they doing their job? So this is what we created in order to determine that. And schools get funding based on how their kids do on standardized testing and all that kind of thing. And again, it's lost sight of what education truly is. And because all students we now know learn differently, teaching everybody the same way towards a standardized test is failing miserably, at least in the United States. And I haven't heard any other country that's, high on standardized testing in that regard either. So it gets in the way of true learning, I believe.
Well, this is, as you shared with us, perhaps another reason why the wider community, if they would take time and say this evening, Zone of 5 schools, come, have a chat, and get a chance to see what is available elsewhere. See this thing is available here, here, here. How does it compare to what is available here, here, and here? And maybe come away with an information that allows us to, as parents, make better choices for our children. Ultimately, that's our objective, make them better.
Yeah, I think the fair today serves two purposes. For those families that have students that learn differently and are struggling to find their way currently, we're a source of information for that. For families who are not, just to start the process of understanding what else is available to them in the greater scope, it gets them thinking about possibilities for their student. So whether one of the 5 schools that is there today is appropriate for your child is not a reason not to come. It's a way of gaining information about private education and what it holds for each student, because there's a school out there for pretty much everybody.
You just need to be willing to take time, search, seek and you shall find, no?
Pretty much.
As I listen to you, you have the notion that parents who are committed and involved will do almost anything and everything that the parent can do to make sure that the child has the very best opportunities. And that investment in education isn't just a financial expenditure. It's this thing that's going to be with that child lifelong, and that foundation throughout.
Yes, and again, each school is different in how they go about requiring families to pay for this education. Some are very well endowed and therefore can offer significant financial assistance for students not only in need but who represent cultural diversity to their student body. Others have smaller endowments and are not allowed, just don't have the wherewithal to give that much. But again, through research, you can find out which schools can do which, and it gets the process going in your own head as to what's possible for my child.
And I think, as you shared too, that should strike most of us almost immediately. It isn't that you're thinking of September, August, whenever the next academic year begins. It may be 2 years down the road. It may be that you're starting to recognize in your child that it's just not clicking. Something is not just happening. Yes, the child will, with age, hopefully mature, but maybe the child needs some of the thing extra that isn't quite ready, as you referenced, whether it's Trinidad, Bahamas, Barbados, or other places that much larger populations, much more resources. You know what? It's not available to them there. They have to seek elsewhere.
As far as students with learning challenges go, the earlier the better.
Yeah.
I mean, to at least start thinking about it, because the longer she goes without the appropriate approach to learning, the more anxiety and frustration that child will have about going to school.
Mm-hmm.
And then you may get to a child is, so stressed out because they don't feel that they're capable of learning that they almost start refusing to go. And no child should feel that ever. And it would be well worth anybody's while to kind of try to get a handle on it a little earlier on in their education.
And it's not just truancy that we're looking at, too. The notion that that child perhaps is frustrated. Everybody else seems to be getting it, whether the child knows that they are or not. The perception is that they are, and you're not getting it. So therefore, you feel, less than, it starts to chip away. And all of a sudden, who knows what sort of other behavior it may result. And all because you're just not getting the way the information is being disseminated. There's nothing wrong necessarily with the teacher or with the uncomfortable class or the chair or what have you. It's just you just need something that is not available then and there.
Yep. Schools that are unequipped to handle students with learning challenges genuinely want to do their best. They're not trying not to. They just don't have the wherewithal to work on one thing with one individual child when they have a whole class that they have to attend to. So it's not by design, but it's just a function of the ability of the school system to work with different types of students.
Mm-hmm. Well, as I listen to you, it's obvious that communities, societies, policymakers, principals, even parents recognize that we need to continually approach education with a student-centric sort of approach, how that child and student. But easier said than done. This afternoon might just be the opportunity to see that there are some other resources available. So 5 o'clock at the National Gallery?
5 o'clock, National Gallery.
Free admission.
Free admission.
Just come and spend a few minutes, spend a few hours as you need.
Yep, you'll have a chance to talk with each school individually. We'll each have an opportunity to share with you our schools and what we do. And as I said, even beyond that, if you have questions beyond what our schools are, I and my colleagues will be more than happy to talk to you about ways you can go about getting as much information as you need to be well informed.
Well, Jeff Magnolia from Maplebrook School, not just as direct admissions, but for sharing with us. We all are in this together. And education is that thing that I think we all want to get right, if we can. Our students, our children, deserve no less. Any parting words you may want to leave with us again? Anything you want to repeat? Just remind us.
It's at this point I'm supposed to say something profound, and of course it's always at this moment that profundity gets lost. The people who are here to speak with you, all of us to a person, care deeply about just the whole educational process, and I can tell you that there are a lot of people out there just like us, and again, if there's any way we can help you, we'll be more than happy to do so, and so we look forward to seeing you today.
All right, thanks very much. 5 o'clock this evening at the National Gallery. Maybe you turn left instead of going right on your way home. Maybe on your way home you pull in. Just, it's another investment into our children's education in the future. Thanks very much, Mr. Jeff.
Dwayne, thank you very much for having me.
All right, we're going to pause and take a break. When we come back, more talk today. So please, stay tuned.
Radio Command, and this is how we wake you up.
Praises unto God, sing praises. Come on, sing praises unto God, sing praises. Hallelujah. Lord, I thank you for sunshine, thank you for rain, thank you for joy, thank you for pain. It's a beautiful day.
Praise time on Radio Cayman. Praise time.
Give me Jesus in the morning. I will. So send me, Lord. I will go. Born again. Thank God I'm born again.
Weekday mornings from 6 until 6:30.
From district to district, moving through the waters to Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. Your station, your voice. All things Cayman. One radio, many people. This is home.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman.
Radio Cayman's newsroom. These are the biggest stories right now.
The Department of Health is wrapping up its metal bailing operation, and residents on Cayman Brac are being urged to make arrangements for the transportation for their derelict vehicles and other metal waste to the Cayman Brac landfill by the end of today. Residents may contact Patients EK by telephone on 916-4201. The DEH has bailed 75 vehicles and created 150 full metal bales since the bailing activity began last week. In news elsewhere, a winter storm slamming the western U.S. dumped rain Tuesday in Northern California and raising the threat of floods, while heavy mountain snowfall created a risk of avalanches and whiteout conditions on roads in the Sierra Nevada. The National Weather Service issued flood warnings and flash flood watches for the San Francisco Bay Area and many parts of the Sacramento area into Thursday morning. The latest storm will be a marathon rather than a sprint, the Weather Service predicted. Police found a Pennsylvania woman and her adult daughter in an apartment with the bodies of 5 relatives they had killed, including 3 children, authorities said Tuesday. Shanna Decree, 45, and Dominique Decree, 19, were charged with 5 counts of homicide and 1 count each of conspiracy. The bodies were found Monday in an apartment in suburban Philadelphia after Bucks County child welfare officials showed up unannounced and got no response when they knocked on the door. And British Prime Minister Theresa May bowed to intense political pressure Tuesday and handed control of Brexit to Parliament, telling lawmakers they will get to choose between leaving the European Union on schedule with or without a divorce deal and asking the EU to postpone departure day. May said that if Parliament rejects her deal with the EU in a vote due by March 12th, lawmakers would be given a vote the next day on whether to leave the bloc without a withdrawal agreement. Those are your latest updates here on Radio Cayman. I'm Shanta Gallego.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the eastern districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
Our children, they are the future of our country. So often, being a parent means making the tough decision now so that they can flourish and prosper.
The American Boarding School Fair will be visiting Cayman on Tuesday, February 26th at the National Gallery. With Cayman's growing and diverse global economy, this is the perfect opportunity to learn about the educational options available to Caymanian students firsthand from visiting delegates.
There is no charge to attend. You have nothing to lose and potentially everything to gain. With specialized programs and a focus on individuals with learning differences, these leading institutions provide a well-rounded education and international experience.
Yes, the boarding school fair is free to attend for all parents and students at the National Gallery on February 26th from 5 to 7 p.m. For more information, visit the admissions page at www.gow.org or call 1-716-652-3450. That's 1-716-652-3450.
Miami is so much more than just a shopping destination. Foodies, friends, and family are flocking to Miami for a variety of vacation experiences. From theater shows and concerts, theme parks and sports, to museums, fine dining, festivals, culture, spa, and more. And with regular Miami airfares now from just $182 CI round trip, including taxes, now is the time to plan your unique Miami getaway. For details and to book, call 949-2311 or visit CaymanAirways.com.
Did you know that recycling collection containers are located island-wide in Grand Cayman? The Department of Environmental Health's program is an integral part of DEH's waste management responsibility in the Cayman Islands. Start your recycling program at home today. Put your cardboard items in appropriate DEH recycling containers at all Foster's supermarkets, Kirk Market, or Hurley's Grand Harbor. Help keep Cayman clean. Reduce, reuse, and recycle. For more information about recycling, go to www.deh.gov.ky.
Did you know babies sleep an average of 14 hours per day? Tomlinson Furniture has cribs and beds for babies and toddlers, changing tables and more, including baby clothes and basket sets, like perfect gift packages prepared for newborns. Shop the Welcome Baby section of Tomlinson Furniture, corner of Hospital and Smith Road.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us. And you know what? If you accuse me of being cheerful and grateful and thankful and appreciative and all those good, other things, I would say, yep, that's me. Very thankful. In the studio, part of the reason why I am, so is that I got a chance to interact with so many good people. And, that commercial you sometimes see on that One Eye Monster screen that we watch, the guy from, this is something from State Farm. Well, this is Neil from CUC. When I look at you, man, I hope you don't mind. I always admire your enthusiasm, your sincerity, a genuine approach that you have to life and to service and to contributing, man. You're an inspiration.
You always say that when I come on, and
seriously,
must be ratings or something that you're.
No, well, no, man. Look at life, right? Look at life. Look at those of us who seemingly continually take. We're always taking. And then, thankfully, there are people like you who just constantly pour into the lives of so many, always giving. And we benefit because if it was people like you giving, how many of us could actually take? So thank you for being such a giver.
It comes from being in a family of teachers, I think. That's what it is.
Yeah. Well, it's important, and as I reflect this quickly on a conversation with Jeff earlier, education is that thing that hopefully, I don't make an apologies for it. I hold it in the highest regard. But hopefully it doesn't offend people, my passion and enthusiasm, to ensure that we are educated, not just academic instruction that we get in the classrooms, but the idea that a society through example gets to see the importance of being of service, of value. Mm-hmm. And this initiative that we were talking about, running in the Republic, I guess a brainchild of, Neil Murray's creation in a sense.
Actually, not really. It was,
I know.
the slogan was, but the whole event was actually Mr. Hugh's brainchild, because as you know, the Hugh family was West Bay founded, so to speak, and Mr. Hugh obviously wanted to. He was thinking about it for a while, and came up with the idea of doing a walk or run in West Bay because, and funnily enough, this is actually our second year. The first year we were inundated with requests to participate because a lot of people haven't run in West Bay. There's never been any organized apart from the West Bay Sports Foundation did do a walk/run a couple of years ago to raise funds for the John A. Cumber Music Room. So I had to correct them on that, but they were really pleased that they could actually participate in a walk-run in West Bay.
And the notion that for those who are either actively exercising or just happen to be to and fro we see many people exercising, within the district. Now that the roads are the way they are, I call it along the circuit. So they go through one roundabout and the next. It is a beautiful place to ride your bike, to run, and to walk. But perhaps by the time people leave work and get home, they find it maybe more convenient to, before they get home, let's go to the track, let's go elsewhere and exercise, and then go home to tend to whatever the home requires, right?
Right. Funnily enough, I actually had a few people who said they couldn't participate, and I said, why? Because they couldn't get there. They didn't know where Restaurante Pappagallo was. So it was kind of amusing to try and persuade them to come and them not knowing that part of West Bay at all. So,
well, tell us about us. We have some fun and invite people in to be participants. But it's this Saturday, right?
Yeah, Saturday, March the 2nd. Starts at 6:30 for the walkers and 7 for the runners. Pre-event check-in is 5:30. There's no registration on the day of the event, but you can register on Cayman Active up until tomorrow. And then you can contact CUC, myself, 914-1110, or email communications at cuc.ky between now and Friday. And, we'll certainly accommodate you with getting your forms, getting your payment, and giving you the normal T-shirt and bag and things like that, and get you set up for Saturday morning.
All right. And like with everything, there's always a good, community sort of support, but there's also the benefit of this year. You're assisting not only tell us.
Yeah, actually, we did it last year too. We get an assistance from the Cayman Islands Athletic Association, who actually we've this is actually our 40th year of sponsoring track and field in the Cayman Islands, and we've always had a close relationship with the Athletic Association. So they've come on board as volunteering some of their people to assist with the event, and part of the proceeds go to them, but the majority of the proceeds go to the Sunrise Adult Training Center, who again we have an established partnership with them for quite a few years, from the 90s. So all proceeds, or majority of proceeds, will go to the Sunrise Adult Trainees. And again, we get assistance from them too. They actually come out and participate for free, and they have a good fun, and they have a lot of the teachers and the educators there, and the assistants come out, and it's as I say, it's really for them. So it's a nice environment for them.
And for those, whether they look back to the days of Miss Bonnie or Dr. Shari and realize that the Sunrise Adult Training Center, the independence that is honed in those individuals, the notion that just given opportunity, they are as much engaged and excited about our communities. When you're around them, you get to appreciate life, man. You see the true joy. They don't hide
definitely,
it.
Yeah. We do quite a few events with them throughout the year, and I can remember I was talking with somebody the other day when the Sunrise Adult Training Center was actually by Johnny Cumber Primary. Remember those days?
Trust me.
And I think it was Mr. There was an attorney that lived there first, Mr. Levy, and then they utilized his house as part of it. And then they moved on. Then they moved on to up at Power Lane, but of course they're now looking at going to bigger and better things. So, we're happy to assist in whatever small part we can assist with.
I spent many weekends helping to prepare that space for what eventually would become, and it's that sort of need early on for a person to recognize the value of being of service, to the community. It was a group of us as young high school students, as it were, giving up weekends and after schools, doing little things that, in the end, matters significantly. Yeah, we're doing it through our service club, but it was because you see the need. And I think if we recognize that, that's why I hope you don't mind. I look to not just the humility in you, but a genuine approach to service, whether it's through football and a youth program or it's through other community initiatives. As an employer, looks good through the wonderful efforts of an employee, but likewise too, the employee can look bad when the employee is a good corporate citizen.
Right.
Likewise, so
right,
hand in glove, huh?
Yeah, I mean, CUZ has been involved with quite a few community involvement based events throughout. Actually, even before Mr. Hugh taking over the presidency, the involvement team was actually started in officially started in 1995. And since then, we've focused a lot of our efforts on the youth programs, Sunrise Adult Training Center, track and field, swimming, football, and a number of other events. And this was, a walk in West Bay to support and assist with a predominantly West Bay Sunrise Adult Training Center, again, who has always been in West Bay. So it was easy to come together and start this walk. And again, through a lot of assistance from volunteers and people within CUC, it was quite a success last year. And it was geared to be an annual event. So this is our second year. As I said, I didn't mention where it's going to start from. It's actually Restaurante Papagallo. And we have to thank Vico from Restaurante Papagallo, who has given us the space, his parking lot to kind of be the general starting area, and also he's been very helpful with a small breakfast afterwards for the participants and things like that. So he's been very helpful with getting this off the ground, and again, this is our second year, so we're hoping for quite another successful turnout like we did last year.
All right. Well, when we come back from our break, Neil, could you, obviously we know the starting and sort of ending point, but tell us about the route and the like, and give us a reminder of not just the beneficiaries, but perhaps the registration costs, and talk more about it. It is, as you see, it's a West Bay thing, running into the Republic, and for those who exercise regularly and have ran or walked or rode their bikes, West Bay can be a beautiful scenic spot. More the merrier, even better, right?
Definitely.
When we come back, more talk today.
Get your car washed with Diamond Auto Care. $20 car wash special. $30 for SUVs, interior and exterior. Call 928-7336. Diamond Auto Care will leave your car with a sparkle and shine. Only $20. Call 928-7336.
Cayman's biggest family fun day is back.
The 52nd Annual Agriculture Show at the Stacey Watler Agriculture Pavilion in Lower Valley. Wednesday, March 6th. Cookie competition, pony rides, petting zoo, beautiful baby contest, rodeo, Miss Farm Queen competition, Andy Martin the Cayman Cowboy, Roscoe the Mechanical Bull, and so much more.
Gates open at 7:30 a.m. with ample parking.
General admission is only $10. Children ages 2 to 11, only $5. And children under 2 are absolutely free. Or if you buy a raffle ticket, it includes free entrance and a chance to win $20,000.
The 52nd Annual Agricultural Show, March 6th in Lower Valley.
For more information, visit them on Facebook or caymanagriculture.ky.
Give yourself great hair with a Wash, Blow and Go hair service special for $39.99 from Beyond Basics. Finish your polished look with facial hair threading services. $5.99 for lip or chin, $9.99 for brows, or $24.99 for full face threading. Only at Beyond Basics this February. Call 916-SKIN to book your appointment today.
Don't forget to tune in every Monday through Friday for the 7 a.m. news. Brought to you by Cayman National Bank. Proudly serving the Cayman Islands since 1974. Visit Cayman National Bank today for all of your financial needs.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. Thank you so much for joining us. And in the studio, truly is a pleasure to always have the good company of Mr. Neil Murray. For many reasons, not only he doesn't mind the example as a husband and a father, but that notion that too much is given, much is required is always evident. And Neil, I say this recognizing that for some of us, we're uncomfortable, but in our society, we need to be able, like the song, Where Are Your Heroes, West Indies? The country needs to look at its people, not just the politicians and the business leaders, not just the philanthropists who, because of their wealth, they can endow scholarships for education or the arts or what have you, but I call it regular folks who, by their example, You know, what does the scripture says? By their fruits ye shall know them.
Mm-hmm.
By the example, we see that down the road, our neighbor, our former classmate, or co-worker does because he or she can do, wants to do, willingly is doing. And maybe we borrow a page, maybe it's just a paragraph, and we can't even afford a sentence, but something in that life inspires us, and you continue to motivate and inspire us in what you do. So thanks, man.
You know, volunteering is free. That's the thing. So, you know, there are those who obviously look for compensation for their time, which is fine. I mean, everybody has their own way of doing things. But again, you know, growing up in a family of teachers, you were, you know, taught to help out as much as you can wherever you can with whatever you have.
That's the thing.
That's basically what it is. And you know, with so many things happening in the world now, it's you know, you hear people about, oh, you know, Cayman is this, but you know, trust me, there's turn on the news, there's so many other places where you can't even run down the road.
Yeah.
So those are the things that we have to be very grateful for, and in this environment especially, you know, it doesn't cost you anything to come out and assist. Well, the race actually costs you $15, but again, it goes to a worthy cause, and you know, that's basically why we're doing it.
And the thing too, though, that I share that not. I mean, I feel to an extent, you know, I know you. I think, you know, I can call you a friend and you not be, hey, I don't want to be offended by that. We joke and jest. But the idea that in our community we take so much for granted, that safety and security that we have without, you know, moving about our communities, with our families, to be outside, to go to the beaches. There are not many places where that is as easy and as safe to do. And we need to be mindful that we don't lose that here.
Right, and that's the Caymanian way. I mean, you know, we grew up in West Bay together, and it was, you know, you got on slippery ledges behind Bogasana Road, all this kind of stuff. There was nobody there to, hey, get off the beach, all that kind of stuff, you know. And you know, you go and pick the sea grapes, all that kind of stuff in people's yards. There was nobody there to kind of, you know, shoo you away and say, hey, you know, this is private property. You don't have all these signs and fences saying, you know, keep out, this kind of stuff. And now seeing that happen in a lot of the areas is kind of, it's bewildering to a point. You know, can I walk here? Should I walk here? And then, of course, you know, your kids growing up are seeing all this, whereas, you know, you're trying to relate to them how it was and what it was when you were younger.
And equally, too, that there was a healthy respect. Even if we went into the yard, we had permission,
right?
You know, and when nobody was home, you only went so far and no further.
Right. I mean, you knew your limits.
You knew your
exactly.
limits.
You knew your limits.
You knew you could go because prior you had asked permission, you were given permission. For the most part, there was a healthy respect. You were on the beaches.
Probably there was places you had to stay warm, like Mr. Bobo Didi's yard and stuff up, you know, things like that.
You remember?
Exactly, yeah. You know, but you know, again, this is it's just a changing way the world is, and I think we need to obviously keep it as plain and simple as we can here.
Yeah, and I think too, as we talk about this event coming up on Saturday, the notion that as a community, yes, we recognize the physical location of the Sunrise Adult Treatment Center, but we also recognize the importance of what it does for the community, the companies that employed or would be willing to employ, you know, the residents and the students. These adults, the wider community that sees the opportunity to share. If we do that, no matter where we live, no matter who we are, no matter our wealth, so to speak, that contribution can make a meaningful difference because it shows that the community is committed. Come Saturday, if you see a lot of people out there together, I mean, it's awesome.
Right. I mean, it's that's the thing. It's just the coming together, and you know, we get quite a few requests from people in West Bay. You know, the people that have lived there all their lives. It's nice to come out and enjoy a walk or a short run, and then again, it's that community feeling that you have afterwards. And I haven't seen you for a long time, especially, you know. It's the faces of West Bay, so to speak, and anybody else that wants to join in.
Yeah, man. And I think that the idea that especially after you congregate, you know, I know we're talking about running in the Republic, you know, as part of the CC initiative, but when I look at the Breeze Walk, for instance, the congregation after, or the congregating after, that is that thing, you know, you see people, you probably, in the social media sphere now, probably speak to them, but
you don't actually see them face to face. And
there
that's
you
the
go,
thing.
man.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Well, I'm mindful and respectful of your time, and I appreciate you sharing the moments with us. But for those who want to share with us as much as you want about the timing, the location, share with us.
Yeah, sure. Saturday, March the 2nd again. Starts and ends at Ristorante Papagallo on Conch Point Road in West Bay. For those people who don't know where Conch Point is, you have to actually go through Boson Bay to get to Conch Point Road. The course is actually on our website. It's www.cuc-cayman.com, and then you go to events and you'll see the tab there for the Sunrise or the West Bay Sunrise 5K. It's $15 for adults and $10 for youth under 17. People who want to register, you can register online at caymanactive.com. Up until tomorrow, you can actually come by CUC. Once you've registered online, you can come by CUC between now and Friday, pick up your event bags, which contains a T-shirt and a bottle and a cap. And for those who aren't able to access the website or want to pay in person, we're also accepting payments and forms at CUC. It's right at the at the administration building and reception area. Just ask for myself or someone in the corporate communications department, and we'll assist you with registering for the event. Again, all proceeds go to the Sunrise Adult Training Center, with a portion of the proceeds going to the Cayman Islands Athletic Association. And just since I have the time, I just want to thank the police who have been instrumental last year in assisting us with the traffic situation. Again, we just kind of that early in the morning, I'm sure maybe Sunday morning, it maybe not be a lot of people on the road, but we just want to have you be aware of the runners. They'll be in yellow shirts. So just to keep a lookout for those around the course. As again, it's a 5K course starting and finishing at Ristorante Papagallo. It takes like a loop around. It goes down Conch Point Road, down to Anderson Road, and then you take a left on Thistle Lane, and you come right across and go back onto Conch Point Road. There'll be 4 or 5 water stops along the course, so you'll be well hydrated. And at the end, there'll be a small, healthy breakfast, fruits, yogurt, etc., etc.
Yeah, Neil is going to especially prepare it. He'll have on his other hat.
Well, as I say, I unfortunately, I don't run on the road. I don't walk on the road. It was actually a promise I made to myself from when we used to do cross country at high school. And I just made a promise to myself. I said I wouldn't run or walk on the road. I like to save my knees and my ankles, so anything on the field is fine. But being at asphalt or concrete, I'll take a pass. So I'll be assisting, but I won't be competing or participating.
Oh man, and that's the thing, And for those who are going to walk, it's a beautiful time to fellowship and appreciate the support. Just
one thing, actually, Dwayne, we just want to encourage everybody who is actually participating to. Make it before 5:30, simply because the start and stop is actually across the road, and with traffic going back and forth, it kind of creates a safety concern. I know we have to allow for residents at Papagallo itself and the houses in the area, but last year we were a little concerned because we had quite a few people come late, and we had to actually get them through the start and everything where people were lining up to start. So it's a safety issue. So if we encourage everybody who is participating to actually make it there between 5:30 and 6, and just to ensure that you're there, checked in and ready to go at 6:30 and 7.
So 6:30 for the walkers, 7 a.m. for the runners?
For the runners, right.
All right. And as you shared, we're going no registration on the day, which makes sense.
On the day, right.
Yeah. Hey, I always believe in my father always tells us, you prepare beforehand, makes it that much easier.
Well, it makes it easier simply because you're not dealing with cash or money or things like that. So
you can stretch and talk a little more, man.
Right. I mean, if people have signed up on caymanactive.com and are unable to get to CUC to get their bags and stuff, we'll have it there because we actually get the names from Cayman Active. So if there's anybody that hasn't checked in as before Friday, we'll ensure that we'll have a bag and everything there for you in the case that you do show up on Saturday.
All right. So this Saturday?
this Saturday, March the 2nd, bright and early.
Get registered. Well, Neil, I really appreciate the opportunity for the community to come together and to support not just Athletic Association, but the Sunrise Adult Training Center in particular. And so this is another way to show that we are a caring, charitable, very committed community, and we have a lot of that in this country. A lot of good people who give tirelessly. So we have to be grateful, man. Another thing that we shouldn't take for granted.
All right. Well, thanks for having me again, Dwayne. I guess this is a different hat for me because I'm usually here about football. But anyway,
next time,
anything works well.
Hey, listen, you do it with joy, you do it with passion and enthusiasm, you do it sincerely. It's all good. I appreciate it very much. So running in the Republic, as Neil says, it's a West Bay thing, huh? The CUC West Bay Sunrise 5K this Saturday. All right, going to pause and take a break from education to sort of a focus on health. That's next with our friends from the HSA as we share with you. So please stay tuned for Talk Today.
The 15th annual Cayman Economic Outlook returns on February 28th for another year of educating, informing, and stimulating the local community, bringing together industry thought leaders and business professionals to explore their theme, Dynamic New World, Braving the Turmoil. Speakers include economist Norina Hertz, University of Oxford professor Ian Golden, digital revolution journalist Andreas Ekstrom, biotechnology futurist Jamie Metzel, and professional surfer Mark Matthews. Tickets are selling fast. Reserve your seat at rfceo.ky.
Get your car washed with Diamond Auto Care. $20 car wash special. $30 for SUVs. Interior and exterior. Call 928-7336. Diamond Auto Care will leave your car with a sparkle and shine. Only $20. Call 928-7336.
Hi, I'm Dawn McLean Brady, President of the Cayman Islands Small Business Association, better known as CISPA. Small businesses drive Cayman's economy. As small business owners, we depend on government to create an environment where we, as entrepreneurs, can do what we do best, and that's to provide products and services that are valuable to our customers and, in turn, employ others. The cruise piers and cargo ports provide these opportunities. Encourage our government to build a port and let the Caymanian entrepreneurial spirit shine. Support the port, support our tourism.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon, and welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us as we invite you to be a part of our discussion. And again, as we get settled and focus on Patient Safety Awareness Week with our good friends from the Health Services Authority, I must say again a special thanks to Mr. Neil Murray over at CUC and part of their walk run this coming Saturday, CUC's West Bay Sunrise 5K. So get registered. And as I think about the days, a chance to focus initially on education and now on health. Those of you who know, have been listening, paying attention, you recognize that I believe the pillars in a society are without question a strong, robust education system and an equally strong, robust healthcare system. So can the day get any better? I think it can. Let's just see where. So join us in the studio from the Health Services Authority. Get a chance to be able to focus increasingly on the whole idea of what we have before us. Thank you all very much. Thanks for getting settled as we move on. The beautiful part about being in the radio, it's live and direct. Ready, Mr. Jerry? All right. I was thinking as I sat and looked out and said, okay, well, we have, two wonderful ladies and a wonderful gentleman. Should we say ladies first or gentlemen first? Flip a coin. And since the men are outnumbered, because it's 2 and 2, there's only 2 women.
Not outnumbered.
We're outnumbered. Come on now, 2
and 2.
No,
yes.
Still outnumbered. 1 woman and 50 men. The woman still wins.
Wow.
Right, Jerry?
I'll take the 5th.
All right, well, we're gonna have some fun, and maybe Jerry, we start with you first as the operating room manager. As you talk. Could I respectfully ask of you just a brief intro, and then we'll go? Can we do it that way?
Yes, that's
sure,
fine.
Yeah, why not? I mean, hey, this is the one place where I'm almost in charge. All right. Jerry Effner, good afternoon to you and welcome. I will start with you first. Respected ladies, gentlemen first.
Well, thank you very much for having us here this afternoon. It's always good putting the word out about patient safety and the goals that we have at HSA for patient safety. Like you said, my name is Jerry Effner. I'm the operating room manager at HSA, and that entails the operating room, our ambulatory care center, our area where we sterilize instruments, and then our recovery room area. So kind of a big swath of that OR area.
Yeah, we'll get into the whole issue of the concerns that not only the healthcare professionals will have, but equally maybe patients relative to patient safety and the like. And if we're going, do we go left or right, Jerry? You choose, man.
Let's go right.
Let's go right. Swipe right.
Oh, okay, Jerry, you choose me. I am Hazel Gordon Fletcher. I am the infection control coordinator. So as the infection coordinator, I am the person who do surveillance and I monitor the infections in the hospital and the hygiene and things like that. Yeah?
We'll come back to you,
Yeah, I've been here before talking about hygiene.
Yes, ma'am. So, North Hills, don't worry, we'll come back to you. But that means then that Ms. Jodianne, not by any means least, and not even last.
Absolutely not, yes.
Okay.
Okay, so my name is Jodianne Hutton Ricketts, and I'm a pharmacist at the Health Services Authority. Yeah, I think that ties it up.
Okay, let me read the rest of it. I like reading, writing.
Yes.
I enjoy long. Oh, sorry, that was the ad for my pet poodle. Sorry.
Okay.
I just love life, and when I get a chance to see people like you who not only are passionate about what you do, are competent, but the idea that as we include our clientele, and so that they become knowledgeable about not only what we do, but how we can do it better together and improve the safety outcomes, it makes it better. Right?
Absolutely.
And this notion that, when we reached out to me about patient safety awareness, that we're going to be looking at this from that perspective, it's important. Whether you're in the operating room or whether you come into the pharmacist and you want to know, well, how is this going to affect me?
Right.
Some of us probably know that as much as we like grapefruit, if the physician prescribed a particular medicine, avoid the grapefruit. We might know why, but we know. So little things.
So you just don't eat the grapefruit.
Oh, yes.
And if you're
is that what you do? I thought you don't take the medicine.
Right.
All right. And if you're on warfarin, you know that you don't eat a lot of greens.
Right.
Yeah.
Unless you eat it persistently, the same amount of greens every day.
Okay. Well, this is it. And perhaps as we think of the whole idea of it, though, let's start at the beginning. We're talking about patient safety, but two reasons. What is it and why? But let's start with the what. What is patient safety? How would we, if asked to give that an answer to that, what would we say?
Okay.
The answer to that question is relatively easy.
Yeah.
You walk into the hospital and you expect that while you're in the hospital you're going to be safe. You don't expect to get an infection. Right. You don't expect to fall down and hurt yourself.
No.
You don't expect to be operated on the wrong site. You don't expect something to be left in your belly when you leave.
True.
So you should leave the hospital in better shape than when you came in.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty much it in an eggshell.
That's correct. That's correct.
Yeah.
And then we have the Institute of Healthcare Improvement. It's a non-profit organization whose objectives and whose aim is to prevent harm, patient harm. So with that, they have a number of goals, which we will be talking about to improve patients' safety in the hospital. And on the other hand, this week is being celebrated as Patient Safety Awareness Week.
And as I listen to you all share with us, hopefully people will recognize with great respect, this is just an issue in Cayman or the Caribbean or some other remote place. It's an issue in the G7 nations, the top hospital that may have been assessed as the top hospital globally.
Absolutely.
This is an imperative.
It is.
Absolutely.
Right. From that perspective, though, give us, perhaps as the pharmacist, Ms. Jodianne, if you wish to jump in, if Nurse Hazel assists equally, give us like a perspective of what we're talking about when we look at some of the surveys and the research and relative to patient safety and the like.
Okay, so some examples that I would look at for patient safety errors. There is the healthcare associated infections, as we were just hearing that you don't expect to come to the hospital and be getting an infection or falling or stuff like that. Another thing is the antibiotic resistance as well, and also medication errors, which would fall on the pharmacy. And of course, hand hygiene, which I know Miss Fletcher will expound on a little more for us.
That's Hazel.
Okay, so as she spoke about, or we spoke about, not coming into the hospital and getting ill. Okay, so if you come into the hospital with pneumonia, you're not expecting to come out with a broken leg.
No.
If you come into the hospital and you have pneumonia, you don't want to be coming out with bed sores. Okay? So one of the things we do, we believe that hand hygiene is one of the most effective way of preventing healthcare associated infection. And it's important not only in the hospital but even at home.
Yes.
So we provide things for persons to do hand hygiene. We have the hand sanitizer, we have soaps, we have water, we have hand towels.
Oh, yes.
We have signs everywhere to instruct people how to wash their hands. Right. We do education both to staff and to patient. And even what we're doing now is to educate people about hand hygiene, the importance of hand hygiene. Because we know that our hands is very efficient in spreading infection. Because if we don't wash our hands and we move from patient to patient, whatever you have, Mrs. Sterling, I can take it and give it to Jerry.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, well, let me pass it on to you because I don't want this. I mean, you can. Would you take it, Jerry? Thank you.
No, thank you. No, thank you.
Okay, so when patients come in and if they have infections that are infectious, we put them into a room by themselves. Right. Or if it's something that is more serious than being infectious, like something that is respiratory infection, that is like tuberculosis or so, we have special room for them. And then we have masks, we have gloves, and sometimes patients are in special room. It's not that they are infectious to us, it's because we are doing reverse isolation. We're preventing them from getting infection from us.
When we look, and I think it's, perhaps something that we should recognize that our hospital is JCI accredited. It has, it has a reputation internationally that it meets, the things that we would expect, standard of care and the like. As we look at international statistics and understanding that errors happen, diagnostic errors happen, infections occur when people, whether outpatient or inpatient, do we know in their own facility how we rank internationally? Whether it's what sort of statistics we keep?
Well, we do keep a statistic on, I don't know about the wrong side infection, because the wrong side surgery or what have you. I don't think we have you ever seen any or heard anything like that in our institution?
No, I've been here over 3 years now. We've not had any type of wrong site surgery at the hospital, and that's basically because we take a lot of care, and patients sometimes get frustrated with us.
Yes.
Because we ask them their name and their date of birth. We check their armband 3 or 4 times during the process so that we don't have those errors in the operating theater. After you're put to sleep in the operating room, the whole team stops what they're doing. They check your chart, they check your armband, they check your surgical consent, and before the surgery can continue, everybody in the room must agree that we are doing the right thing on the right patient.
And I appreciate you sharing that, because I think sometimes as you share as a patient, we just want to get it in and out. I've already told 5 people before my name and my docket number, and I'm here because of whichever, right? But you know what? You didn't tell this person.
And Mr. Jerry, actually, is one of the, as Nurse Fletcher spoke about, the international patient safety goals. That's actually number 1, identify patients correctly. So it's extremely important that we do this.
Yeah. I mean, how many of us have seen where they put a mark on the arm, whatever it is.
Absolutely.
It's not because they don't like you and they put the legs.
Absolutely.
It's so that we know.
And at HSA, you are not going into the operating theater until the surgeon that is doing your surgery puts his initials on the limb or the part of the body that's being operated on. That's part of that process. That's a safety step that is done 100% of the time.
And that's what we call a timeout.
Correct. That's before the timeout. But
well, I enjoy learning. I enjoy, in particular, being able to highlight.
So you were talking about statistic. We know that according to the statistic, 1 in 31 hospitalized patients acquire infection in the States, and 1 in 10 in Europe. Yeah. We categorize patients by per 100 discharges, right? So our statistic over the last 5 years or so is 1 to 1.2 per 100 discharges. That's what our statistics are.
Okay, now
for hospital acquired infections. Not that we give it, because sometimes the patient own pathogen on their skin that cause the infection. But once you're in the hospital, below above a certain amount of time, say within 48 hours, and you more than 48 hours, 73 hours, and you acquire infection, is called hospital-associated or hospital-acquired infection.
Right. So as we talk about patient safety awareness, we do have a caller online. Let's go to our phones. Hey, good afternoon and welcome. You're on Talk Today. Hello, good afternoon.
Hello.
Hi, how are you today?
I'm fine, thanks. And you? You guys are not being heard. I'm not hearing you very much on the radio. I didn't hear the clicking that I wasn't connected, so sorry about that.
Okay, so just want to repeat that so I understand. When you're outside listening to us on the radio, you can't hear us that well?
No, I can hear you now, but I didn't hear the click, the beep that comes in to make you know that you're connected.
Okay. Well, let's start over. Ready? Click. Yeah. Does that work? Right. Thanks for telling us, though. Okay. Yeah, I appreciate that. But just before you continue, you are able to hear us okay on the radio?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay. But thanks for listening, and please, join us.
Good afternoon. I have a question for you. Yes, it's a hospital. It's a basic question. Can you tell me, with the like viruses and stuff, like on ships and stuff, can you tell me approximately what is the number that you would be able to, like, for instance, if there's a cruise ship come to port and there's a virus on board, regardless of what the virus is there a figure that we go by to know whether that ship has to be quarantined, or can you check in to let us know publicly what is the figure, please?
Okay, an interesting question. I can rephrase that in different ways, but as the question was asked, anybody want to jump in, or you want us to take a quick little break and then come back to it? Okay, Ms. Susan.
I didn't hear the question, so you'll have to repeat the question. I don't know if Jerry heard it.
Okay. All right. Well, I think the caller probably recognizes that, we talk about flu season, and is there such a thing, and is it more prevalent in some parts of the year? But as cruise ships with large numbers come into our ports, are we saying that on that particular ship there may have been X number of passengers who have a particular illness? Not just that there may be an outbreak and the ship is quarantined, but if on a ship X passengers have a particular virus, would that ship, what would be the protocol to dealing with that ship and the passengers? Let's just pause, take a little break. When we come back, we'll flip a coin and we'll nominate Narcissa's answer. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
This Wednesday will be awesome.
He opened the hatch, stepped inside, then he took a seat. He checked his calibrations, then he looked at me.
Oh yeah, hold up. First we got proud of them honoring junior and pros.
Then we'll have folks from the Agriculture Society.
We have our district youth cook-off champions.
What? 3 different segments? 3 different hosts? Man, we gonna need a sponsor.
Our word of the week is sponsor. SPONSOR. It's a noun that means a person, firm, organization, etc. that finances and buys the time to broadcast a radio or television program so as to advertise a product, a political party, etc.
This week we featuring the music of Matrix.
Cause when my work done, I'm like a different person.
You join us this Wednesday from 4 to 5 p.m. right here on Radio Cayman 89.9 FM and for Youth Life, a program for all people by young people. Youth Life, more than talk.
Maybe we can fall in love.
Radio Cayman, maintaining the innovation.
On a daily basis, making it easy to connect with you, our listeners. Add us to WhatsApp today, 925-3261. That's 925-3261.
Radio Cayman.
Send a text or voice note.
Can I send a request, please?
You don't really have to ask us. Just send a request.
This is a shout out to my ex.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman, maintaining the innovation.
Country classics.
Well, I was born to coal miner's daughter.
On the road again. They're gonna put me in the movies.
Papa Top again.
Out in the West Texas town of El Paso.
Because you're mine, I walk the line.
Well, I love them.
Country classics.
Young love, first love. You never count your money when you're sitting at the table.
If you enjoy classic country music, come hang out with Radio Cayman this Saturday, 3:30 to 6 p.m.
In the Mississippi cotton picking Delta town.
This Saturday afternoon, following American Country Countdown, 3:30 to 6 on Radio Cayman.
Just walk on by. Wait on the corner.
Country classics.
Attention parents, the American Boarding School Fair is visiting Cayman today, Tuesday, February 26, at the National Gallery. This is the perfect opportunity to learn about the educational options available to Caymanian students firsthand from visiting delegates. The boarding school fair is free to attend. You have nothing to lose, just everything to gain. Today, February 26, from 5 until 7 p.m. at the National Gallery. If you need more information, you can always log on to the admission page at www.gow.org or call 1-766-652-3450. That's 1-716-652-3450.
Talk today.
But I do have some questions.
Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. Thanks for joining us. And in the studio, as we talk about, Patient Safety Awareness Week, which perhaps will remind you will be celebrated March the 10th through the 16th. Yes, we're a little bit here, but hey, to be informed, forearmed, forewarned, right now, Hazel? Go hand in hand.
Yes,
right. So, from the Health Services Authority, we have a chance to speak to the Infection Control Coordinator, Nurse Hazel Gordon-Fletcher. Make sure I get all the needs correct. And that tells the Operating Room Manager, Jerry Elfner, together with pharmacist Jolieanne Hutton-Ricketts. And we've been, at some point in time, we have crossed paths with these individuals. So if you're on YouTube, focus on their faces, not mine. Okay, that's what we're going to do. Just prior to the break, if you were joining us, a caller posed a question specifically relating to cruise lines. And if a cruise ship came in and there were infected people on board with some virus, as an example, what would be the protocols? What would determine quarantine and what have you? I think it was an interesting question.
Absolutely. Very, very, very good question.
Yes. Okay, yeah. So what would happen? The ship would contact the public health here. Public health has a team, and they headed by Mr. Tim McLaughlin. I'm sure everybody knows him. He's the epidemiologist of the island. Yeah, so he would go on the ship along with another doctor, and they would assess the situation, and they would be quarantined. They wouldn't get off of the ship. Nobody would get off the ship. They would be treated there. So that is what would happen.
All right. Well, fair question, because we may think, wow,
absolutely,
all these people come on board and suppose they have some illness.
Right.
Things that help us to improve our public safety and our health.
Most definitely.
All right. Let's look at the issue now of patient safety and some of the potential things that could negatively affect outcomes. What would be some of those things that could lead to negative outcomes. Jerry?
One of the things that's on the Joint Commission top 5 patient safety goals is prevention of falls. So the HSA has got a few initiatives set that help us to prevent that. Say you're walking down the hallway, you'll notice that the housekeepers will have a do not slip sign in the hallway. They'll mop one side of the hallway before they let that dry and then go to the other side so that the hallway's not blocked at any time so that somebody won't slip and fall. Every patient that comes into the hospital is asked 3 questions. Have you been dizzy in the past 2 weeks? Have you had a fall? Have you changed your medications? If you answer yes to any of those questions, then you get a more detailed fall assessment. So every patient that comes into the HSA, whether it be into the hospital for surgery or if you're admitted because you're ill, you'll get that fall safety questionnaire and assessment done.
Have you been dizzy? Have you had a fall? And the third one is?
Any kind of what kind of medication? Right.
All right. And going to ER, coming to GP, those are the questions you probably will receive.
Exactly.
All right. Important, because if you were dizzy and noticed a little bit wobbly,
right,
that can help us to understand what potential could be something going forward.
Exactly. Exactly.
Now, from that perspective, before I ask about the medications in the pharmacy and the idea of different things, we as patients, what can we do equal as well to help out?
Be truthful to the doctor and your lawyer.
Definitely.
And your lawyer.
Yeah, somebody said the 2 persons you don't lie to is your lawyer and your doctor.
So your spouse and your priest is okay?
Well,
that's teaching us.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, but seriously,
no, seriously, yeah.
It is important that you tell the truth when you go to the doctor.
Right. And another thing the public can also do is hand wash. Make sure you wash your hands. And another thing that they can do is if they notice that the healthcare provider hasn't washed their hands,
yes,
please remind them. You didn't wash your hands. Please wash your hands.
And that's okay. You know what? You're just whatever. Please, can you wash your hands? And if they take, what they say, if they get half up, too bad.
Exactly.
Insist that they wash it. Okay.
Yes.
Thanks for sharing up with us, because sometimes we don't.
If you're sick and you're home and you have a flu or some respiratory condition, and your brother, your sister, your wife, your husband is sick in the hospital and very sick, please stay home and use the phone and talk to them.
Okay.
Yeah.
From the pharmacy side of things, what patients can do to assist patients, it's important that you report your adverse effects. So adverse effects here is basically when there's an outcome, just to be clear, when there is actually an undesirable experience that you might get from a medication that you're taking. So it's important that they report to us so that we can help them. Another thing is that there are a lot of patients that are on medications, for example, warfarin. Nurse Fletcher brought that up recently. A lot of times they want to get over-the-counter medications. For example, it's the flu season, and they will want to get some vitamin C, stuff like that. With warfarin, at a certain amount the vitamin C, if you take a certain amount, over a certain amount, then it can interact with the warfarin. So we'd want to know what are the medications that, if you're taking any OTCs with your regular medications, just to let us know so we can advise you on what you can take, how you should take, and so on.
So being honest with the pharmacist as well.
As well is important, yes.
So more honesty. Ms. Susan, we take the call before the break, you think? Well, let's go to the phones and respectfully join this call. Good afternoon, welcome. Thank you for sharing.
Yes, good afternoon. Just hold on.
Yeah. Okay. Now, as you there, sir?
Yeah. No, I'm there, Mom.
Oh, sorry. I couldn't even hear properly. My apologies. I don't know.
That was my husband answered first.
Oh. Okay. I don't feel so bad now.
Anyway,
I was like,
this is Marty Powering.
Good afternoon, Mom.
Yeah. Better known as K.
Yes, Mom.
I mean, we have so many different names. We better make it straight.
Yeah, but I recognize the first voice before you.
I get that. And I just
want to publicly express and praise the hospital and its team of people from number 1 to way down, way up. Government hospital, hospital. All right. I was there from the 17th of this month until the 21st in the late evening when I was discharged fully and came home.
Yes, ma'am.
And from the time I went there, you know all the things they said about the hospital, but I had such a positive experience that I'll never listen to another one of them criticize because they have no idea what they're talking about. They don't know what those people go through every day with the different people. But I can tell you,
yes, ma'am.
I had a vacation.
Yeah, proper good experience, huh?
That is, oh yeah, that was a proper place for me. Yes. I had cooks. I did not need any washerwoman. I had cooks, I had cleaners, and I had people to wait on me hand and foot. I mean, what more can you ask for?
Good service,
you know what?
Yes,
they did it with a willing attitude, and that was such a refreshing thought.
Well, thank you very much, ma'am. The people that we have in the hospital, from nurses down to the dietary department, their number one goal is to make our patients satisfied, make sure that they're safe, and that they have a pleasant experience. And you saying that really, really, really makes...
refreshing, as you said.
Yes. Well, thank you. Anything finally you want to share with us, Mom?
I wish you all continued appreciation from the public who you serve, because I, for one, had an unforgettable positive experience.
Very good.
Thank you,
I couldn't have gone nowhere in this world and had better care and considerate people watching over me. Plus, God was watching over all of us.
Amen. Well, thank you for sharing that. And maybe we could pick up on that on the way back. And as a public, I say this again, I have high expectations, of our education and health systems. And as a society, I hope that we'll continue to contribute to make it even better. When we come back, as we focus on patient safety awareness, let's hear from you and have our wonderful panel share some more. So please stay tuned for Talk Today.
Satisfaction is guaranteed 24 hours a day, whether it's music or information.
From Grand Cayman to Cayman Brac to Little Cayman, we've got you covered.
You ever hear a thing like that?
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman. Headline. Radio Cayman's newsroom. Headline. These are the biggest stories right now.
I'm April Cummings with a look at your latest headlines. A Grand Court jury returns its verdicts in the English test corruption case, which involved a group of 7 immigration officers and civilians. 3 officers and 1 civilian were found guilty of committing fraud on the government. 1 civilian and 2 officers were found not guilty. 5 officers were found guilty of failing to report the solicitation of an advantage. The case surrounded the sales of passing test scores on the English immigration exam. In international headlines, U.S. President Donald Trump and North Korea Kim Jong-un arrived in Vietnam for their second summit in less than a year. The U.S. is expected to focus on convincing North Korea to dismantle its nuclear weapons program. The U.S. is expected to focus on convincing North Korea to dismantle its nuclear weapons program. Tensions escalated sharply on the Asian subcontinent today, with nuclear-armed neighbors Pakistan and India trading accusations and warnings after a pre-dawn airstrike by India that New Delhi said targeted a terrorist training camp. Pakistan said there were no casualties, while New Delhi called the attack a preemptive strike that hit a terrorist training camp and killed a, quote, very large number of militants. British Prime Minister Theresa May has bowed to political pressure and says if Parliament rejects her Brexit deal, lawmakers will then get to decide whether to leave the EU without an agreement or seek to delay the country's departure from the bloc. Britain is due to leave the EU on March 29th, but so far the government has not been able to win Parliament's backing for its divorce deal with the bloc. Those are your headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom. I'm April Cummings.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands. What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiokman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio K-Man is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio K-Man.
Talk today.
But I do have some questions.
Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Good afternoon. Welcome back. Thanks to Miss Susan for being on the other end of not just the table, the phone, and everything else. But hey, thanks equal to our guests as we get a chance to focus on patient safety, and as we celebrate Patient Safety Awareness Week, coming up the 10th to the 16th of March. Now, I think today is the 26th of February. And to those of my brothers who are celebrating their birthday together, woohoo! We're gonna have some fun later. But for now, let's enjoy ourselves. In the studio, Nurse Hazel Gordon Fletcher as the infection control coordinator, together with her colleagues, Jerry Effner, the operating room manager, and pharmacist Julianne Hutton-Ricketts. I like the idea that, as the caller last shared, we are increasingly, as a society, very publicly appreciative of what we're seeing within our own public, sort of health services authority. I think we also are appreciative and cognizant that the bar is continually being raised on not just competency and professionalism, customer service and service delivery. So that makes us a strong foundation, right?
Yes. Absolutely.
Ms. Julianne, if I may respectfully start with you, when we're looking at medications, we probably, some of us, go to collect medications for ourselves.
Right.
We also probably go to collect for spouse, for children, for parent, for different people as well. We're authorized, and the pharmacist says, "Well, this is the medication. This is whatever it is."
The counseling.
Yeah, there you go. Tell us about that part in relation to patient safety, because I think it's important for us to understand what is being said, especially if we really relay that information. Take 2 of these and call me in the morning isn't good enough anymore.
Oh, yeah, it's very, very, very important in patient safety. Counseling the patient, because that is basically the last stage of the process, of the medication process, right? And when we counsel the patients, there's two things. First, there's a lot of things we can find out, because what we do at the pharmacy, when we counsel the patients, we not only tell them how to take the drugs, which route, so on and so forth. We not only tell them that, but we also show them their medications, right? And a lot of times when we show them stuff, they'll say, "Oh, but doctor had discontinued that," or so it really helps with patient safety, and also helping them as well with how to take their medications, because that is very important, because you don't want to be taking a medication that is meant for a rectal route, say, via the mouth, or vice versa. So, it's very, very important in patient safety.
I'm glad you said that, because my friend told me that last time he went the other day for colonoscopy, they decided they were going to try the GI at the same time.
Right.
He was glad he didn't take the 2-phone special. So Susan's like, man, you know what? It's only Tuesday. We'll see what tomorrow brings. Yeah. But those are the things that I think we need to be cognizant of. And Jerry, from the perspective of, we're going into the operating room, and there's going to be the anesthetic, and after the anesthesiologist administers it, more than likely we're going to be out, if that's what was intended. You're not going to be able to communicate with anybody there.
Absolutely.
At least I don't think so.
Absolutely.
And when you awake, you probably won't remember too much what happened initially, huh?
Exactly. Some of the drugs that we give have anesthetic results, so that you won't remember. Most of those are given right before you go off to sleep, so that you probably won't remember that. But be aware that there is a registered nurse in the room with you 100% of the time, whose chief job it is to make sure that you're safe. So you're not alone. You may be asleep and not know what's going on, but the anesthesia provider never leaves your side, and the circulating nurse never leaves the room. so you're going to be safe the entire time that you're in the surgical ward.
Can I just ask, and not specific to direct it, to you or nurses or as an infection control, but we would sometimes, especially when we're watching international news, is it MRSA or is it MSRA?
MRSA.
MRSA. All right. I won't. Yeah. So we look at that in similar infections, and the media internationally has a tendency to exaggerate or make things inflammatory in a sense, and superbugs and the like.
Mm-hmm.
When we look at that in patient safety, not just in operating rooms but other areas, in the Cayman context, give us a localized approach to that.
Okay, so if the patient is every culture and sensitivity that is tested at the lab comes into my office printer. So if they have MRSA, then they are flagged. So that every time you open the patient chart, you know that the patient had a history of MRSA. Now, if the patient have MRSA, they will be treated, right? And after treatment, then they will be swabbed again, and we'll swab them and treat them once or twice, both with antibiotic if it's necessary, or just with what we call the decolonization kit, where we just give them something for their nose and a body wash. Okay. Now, you'll find that some patients are what we call, they'll have MRSA, but it's not infectious. It just lives there. It's normal. It's a normal flora for their body. So in that case, it doesn't make any sense to treat them, right? But what we do, we when they come, then we put them somewhere different from other persons.
Okay. We won't necessarily get into specifically asking about antibiotic resistance and the use of this, but Ms. Jordan, if I could ask you, when it comes to you were sharing earlier, as a patient, tell the pharmacist specifically about any reactions. You may take something and you see a little rash or you feel a little discomfort. Some of us will ignore it. Oh, no big deal. It didn't put us into any major.
But we don't want that.
Okay, so dysgraphia and the like. So share with us the importance of that again.
It's very important to share if there's an adverse reaction that you have experienced after taking a medication. For example, because what can happen, let us go to a situation where you're allergic to this medication. Right? Say penicillin, right? Because that's a very common one, Nurse Fletcher. So, say you're allergic to, you have a penicillin reaction. Now, you have different forms of reaction. There is a little rash that you can get. The reaction can actually go further, where you have what you call the anaphylactic shock, where it blocks your, what do you call it again? Yes, your breathing. It causes you not to breathe properly, and that can eventually kill you. So, when you have a little reaction, don't just take it as a little reaction. It's important that you let us know so that we can add it to your file. Because what we do with the pharmacy system, which it also happens on Cerner, but for us in pharmacy, I can say we to the profile, we actually add the allergic reaction. So once we put your docket number in or your MRN, that's one of the identifiers as well that we use at HSA, then there will be a little thing that comes up like ping, as the lady said, the caller before, a little ping, and then you realize that there's that the person is allergic to something, so you won't have that person taking that medication again, which can probably lead to more serious.
All right. So
another safety measure I'd like to talk about is there are some cardiac drugs that you have to take the patient pulse or their blood pressure before you give the medication. And if you're trying to sign that off and you didn't write that in, you won't be able to sign it off. That's a safety measure.
That's important. Now, as we look at that whole issue, two things. There's a question off here asking about, and we talked earlier about, as the patient moves through the chain, if I can use it out, they ask specific questions repeatedly.
Yes.
In the file, there's notation patients allergic to penicillin, for argument's sake.
Yes.
Even though that information is on the screen, the person looking at it knows, we'll still ask the patient.
Yeah, we still ask. That's one of the things we do at pharmacy as well. When you come in, one of the things that we do is that we take your date of birth, regardless of the fact that the docket number and the name is there. We take your date of birth on the back of the prescription, and we also ask you, do you have any known medication allergies. Some patients will know, some patients will not know, or they'll say no because they really don't.
I think too, that reminds me that as I guess the best people to be the best advocates is ourselves. So be aware.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. You are the CEO of your health.
Yeah.
So you make sure you take charge of your health. Yes.
Very well put. Very well put. All right. And in the very near future, we're going to a system where before the nurse gives you a medication, they'll scan your armband and they'll scan the medication, which is another safety measure. Because if you're allergic to that medicine, it's going to say, bing, 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 don't do that.
Wow.
And here, I think we have to be very, very careful because a lot of people have the same first, second, and third name.
Yeah.
Yes. And it takes the date of birth to identify them sometimes. Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I think, hold off for now. No more jokes for this minute. All right, we got a final break to take. Could be respectful when we come back as we look at patient safety and look at superbugs and infection control, look at operating room, and if it's appropriate, ask what sort of things we do to clean, for instance, air quality, surfaces, if that's okay. Because I think some of us don't appreciate how much effort and energy and expense is expended in order to ensure that we have the safe outcomes that we do. Would that be fine?
Absolutely.
All right, that's the question. And then, of course, I'll take the order for lunch. Okay, hold on. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
Accommodate small or large living spaces with reversible sectional sofas. Now on sale in a variety of colors for $750 from Tomlinson Furniture. New arrivals every week. Tomlinson Furniture, corner of Hospital and Smith Road.
Spend a day at Grand Cayman's biggest one-day family fun day, the 52nd Annual Agriculture Show at the Stacey Watler Agriculture Pavilion in Lower Valley, coming March 6th. Raffle tickets are now on sale, and for only $25, you can win $20,000 and so many other prizes, including a garden package, iPhone, and staycation. Raffle tickets include general admission to the show. For more information, visit them on Facebook or caymanagriculture.ky.
Minimize age spots, dull skin, and acne, and erase fine lines and deep wrinkles with a combination of a microdermabrasion facial and laser skin tightening treatment, followed by a glow mask and face massage for only $250, a savings of $200. That's 4 treatments for the price of 1. Only at Beyond Basics this February. Call 916-SKIN to book your appointment today.
Talk today.
But I do have some questions.
Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. Thank you for joining us. And in the studio, as we talk about Patient Safety Awareness Week, in the studio, let's go left to right. Because, like some cultures, we will read left to right, not right to left. So let's try it this way. Pharmacist Jodiana Hunt and Ricketts, together with the operating room manager, Mr. Jerry Effner, and infection control coordinator, Nurse Hazel. When I go over to Gordon Fletcher. Because Nurse Hazel, as I look at you and the other Nurse Hazel, or Dr. Hazel.
Dr. Hazel, yes.
I'm reminded that even within the HSA, the continuing education of the staff, sometimes, not because they're going to move up the corporate ladder, it's for their own edification, but we benefit as well.
Absolutely.
And that's important, that continued investment. Prior to the break, I was asking if we could respectfully maybe just talk to that issue of, some of the preventative things that we do to make sure that we, as best as we can, mitigate and reduce the potential of superbugs and infections, especially relative to operations and similar procedures.
Okay, so you were asking about cleaning and air.
If you could put it simply like that.
Okay, so what we do, we have cleaning agents, and they have to be cleaning agents that is approved by EPA. If it's not approved by EPA, and it have to be hospital grade, which is a little harsher than your whole household cleaning, but that's what we have to use in the hospital, because now it has been said that the environment is a cause of hospital-acquired infections. Now, there was a time when we didn't believe that, but now that's a trend now that it's can cause hospital-acquired infection. So we have to be very persistent in our cleaning. Now, the cleaning agents, it have what we call contact time. So when you put the disinfectant on the floor or the bed or the door handle or wherever you clean, it need to be there for the amount of time that the manufacturer said. So if it is 10 minutes, it need to stay wet for 10 minutes in order to be effective. And then there is storage, and then there is mixture. So the persons that uses those, they know the concentration in which they have to be mixed, and then they know how they are to be stored. Because if it is too hot or it is too cold, then it won't be as effective as it should be. So those are things that they're taught, and which I teach the people them that are doing the cleaning, right? And then we have, like, there's some areas, it is not recommended that you routinely do environmental culture unless there is implication that there's something or happening in that area there. So it's only if we have an outbreak or if there's some problems with person with a respirator problem or things like that we believe that it might be because of the environment, then we'll get environmental control to come and do air
quality sampling.
Air quality sampling and that, yes. And we have done that before. And
well, for me, I know you say it's not routine, but that's something respectful. I thought, as we continue to, modernize or look at the amount of traffic that we take it on board. It's a cost, but it's a safety concern as well, no?
Absolutely. And as everybody knows, the operating theater is a sterile environment. So we have specialized housekeepers and porters that turn over what we call turn over the room. In other words, they clean the room in between the cases. The room is kept at a certain humidity and a certain temperature that bacteria don't like. If the room is humid, mold and bacteria love humid, hot places. So that's why when you go into the operating theater, you got blankets on you, and it's very cold because the bacteria don't like to live in cold. The ORs also have a air exchange, so every hour the air in the room is changed 15 times.
Yes.
So that you get all of that stale, bad air out, and it's vented directly to the outside of the hospital, so it doesn't go back into the ventilatory system of the hospital. So those are some of the precautions we take in the operating theater. All the staff is trained in aseptic technique. They know what is sterile, what is not sterile. The doors are kept closed. So when your operating procedure starts, we don't run in and out, because when you open doors, it lets air from the hallway into the operating theater, which is not a good thing. So we take as many precautions as physically possible to keep you safe.
And I can't go in there like I am.
No, you cannot.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because as you were sharing, and it's not a question of asking you to speak at the school, as it were, but we were there at HSA often for different reasons. So we'll see, I'll use the word scrubs, we'll see the personnel, and we know that maybe some are perhaps more tasked with the operating area. So the porter is taking the person from ACU, as it were, wheel them through the hall into the hallway and then down, and then after the surgery bring them back out. There is a protocol that ensures that transfer from A to B takes place to mitigate against.
Absolutely, and if you're come in contact with a dirty patient, and I'm not saying a dirty patient, but an infectious patient or a patient that's got a respiratory illness, before you go back into the theater, you're going to change your scrubs into clean, laundered scrubs. All of our scrubs are laundered at the hospital.
At the hospital, yeah.
They don't take their scrubs home and wash them. It's done right in the hospital with the right temperature, the right type of detergent. You'll also note that when those porters are in the hallways, they're normally wearing lab coats to cover up their scrubs to keep from bringing those bacteria and stuff back into the operating theater. They'll also be wearing hats, and you'll see them with shoe covers on to prevent bringing any of that stuff back into the theater.
If I may ask, then, as we get sort of close to the end of this discussion for today, as family and friends visiting people at the hospital, maybe it's the birth of the first child, or it may be someone who had relatively quick, painless, simple procedure and getting out. Anything that, I can think of obvious, but anything in particular we should consider, whether we should visit, and if so, how we should make that visit in order to reduce spread of...
Sure. If you're sick, don't come.
That's right. Yeah, and I said that before.
Yes. It's pretty much common sense. If you have the flu or if you have a cold, you don't want to bring that in, especially into the area where, especially the nursery, where you have a brand new newborn, when their immune system is still not quite where it should be. So use common sense. If you're sick, don't come in.
And if you're going you have a patient in CCU, you don't send them flowers. They don't accept flowers in there because,
And little things, I think, that as we understand more of the roles that we can play as caring and supportive that we want to be, sometimes we can do that from afar.
Sometimes it's better to be love them from afar.
I just love you from afar. Farther away, the more I love you.
Exactly. And the number one rule is wash your hands.
Very important.
Okay, is it then with the hand washing? Is it that we should use warm water, and so to what temperature? Do we use antibacterial soap? Do we just use running water? Are there particular protocols that say, listen, if you're washing your hands, for it to be effective, it needs to be this way?
Well, we know that it's better if the water is warm. Not that the warm water has any effect better than the cold water, but warm water, antibacterial soap in the hospital, because there's regulation now that you at home you don't need an antibacterial soap. But the important thing is the amount of time that you use to wash your hand, 20 seconds, and you scrub, right? And there's, you make sure you scrub in between your fingers, you scrub inside of your palm, you make sure that your nails are clean, and especially if you work in the hospital, it shouldn't be more than half an inch, your nails shouldn't be. And worse if you're working in the operating room, what they call added things on your finger, whatever they call those. I don't wear that.
No fingernail polish or tips or whatever you call them.
Yes.
Yeah. It's there are things now as we get to the actual physical week of infection control, March the 10th through the 16th. We can be cognizant of some of the things and maybe be especially vigilant, employ some of the practices.
And one thing about it is very important that as a person, as a CEO of your health, you know your medication.
Very important. Yes.
Yeah. If you know your medication, that is one safety measure.
Yeah, and if you don't know, you take your medications with you when you're going to the doctor. It's because it can cause it can prevent a lot of what would you say now? Because sometimes you
mistakes.
Mistakes, and sometimes there are persons, they went to one doctor, they gave them some antibiotics, and they came back to another doctor. The doctor was not aware they were on antibiotics before. They gave them some more, so you find that sometimes similar class antibiotics. So if you don't know, it's good if you know. It's best to know, but if you don't know, take them with you when you're coming to see the doctor.
Yeah, man. As I listen to, it's so important, the little things we can do. Perhaps I'll share with you a practice that someone shared with me long ago. When they're on a extended period for medication, they had it typed up, put it into the wallet.
Absolutely.
Just in case they forget.
You want to see mine?
Yeah, you have.
Exactly.
See, and I thought, wow, you have your driver's license, you have you probably have a discount card in there.
Yeah.
You know, so
and a list of medications.
Yeah, have a list of medications. How
Yeah.
often a day, how many
That's very
milligrams,
good
and
So
what
if
have
you're
you.
if you're unconscious and somebody pick you up,
Right.
them can take out your paper and see what
And
you
they'll
are.
see.
Huh. So see that. I thought she was smart, but now I know. Jerry.
Jerry smarter.
and you work in the environment, so not a bad practice. You know,
Exactly.
to know.
Exactly.
Something to take on board. Well, I'm very, very grateful, to the HSA for this continued opportunity to be able to give the public greater access and insight. As we close out, of course, Nurse Hazel, maybe any final thoughts, Mr. Jerry, and then of course, why not leave the angel for last?
Well, my final thought is make your smile infectious, not your hands. Wash your hands.
I can see Susan using that. I'll behave. Mr. Jerry, you saved me, I think.
Absolutely. Just want to say, you can be assured that when you walk through the doors at HSA, that every person in that hospital is there to take care of you, and they're going to do the best of their ability to make sure that you have a safe visit to the hospital.
Yeah. All right, indeed.
And as Nurse Hazel Fletcher said initially, be the CEO for your health. So, from pharmacy, my advice would be, what I leave with everyone is that try to ensure that you know your medications, know what you're on, know why you're taking them, and if you don't, feel free to call the pharmacy. We're always there ready to help you. And of course, persons that are on chronic medications, if you need to buy anything over the counter and you want to know if it interacts with any of your drugs, please feel free to call us. We're there to help. We're there to assist.
All right. Well, thank you all very much, and
Thank you for having us.
Yes, most definitely. Thank you.
It is truly an honor, and I genuinely, appreciate the opportunity. And sometimes I know people wonder what I'm on, but hey, I just high on life. Man.
There you go. There you go.
High on life.
High on life.
I like one.
Yes,
there
that's
we
a
go.
good one.
Thank you all very, very much indeed. And as we continue, either with colleagues or even yourselves in the future, honored to be able to have this discussion and encourage more of our students to look at the health services as a viable profession.
Yes, very true.
There's so many things we can do, and to us as patients, as taxpayers, as policymakers, make education and healthcare a continued priority.
Thank you very much for letting us get the word out. We appreciate you.
You're most welcome.
Thank you.
And to our listeners, tomorrow, Wednesday, right, Miss Susan? Mr. Art is in the morning? All right, well, please join in for the record. Stay tuned now for Radio Cayman's continued program and call Susan Knox for a request. I mean, why not? Yeah, she's standing by. You just need to hear her. Listen to what she has to play. And, of course, come back for Talk Today right after the midday news tomorrow. Until then, be blessed.